Hola, mi gente. It's me, Gia, the Kaizen Investor. I am super excited tonight because I have two special guests. I had the beautiful opportunity of interviewing David and Jalen, who are the hosts of the Black Wealth Renaissance, and I'm going to bring them in now. So let me bring them in. Hi, fellas. How are you guys doing
Hey,
tonight?
how you
Hey
doing? How you
Gia, how
doing?
you doing? How you doing? Doing great. Glad
Yeah,
to be here. Thank you so much for inviting us on.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Once again, feeling great. Lovely. It's a great evening.
it is. It is. So, for the two people on the planet who have no idea who you guys are and what you do, can you let the people know who you are and what you do? What are you guys up to?
Okay, so I'm David Bellard, one fourth of Black Wealth Renaissance, and this is my partner Jalen Clark. We are two of the creators of Black Wealth Renaissance, a platform dedicated to inspiring African Americans and entrepreneurs in general, just to really learn about business and finance and really get focused on their own personal development when it comes to building generational wealth. Yeah, it's a lot going on.
Mhm.
Hey.
What's up, y'all? I'm Jalen. Once again, a quarter of the Black Wealth Renaissance. Um, David and I, we both work hand in hand on the platform. We have two other partners, Jared and Kelly. So it's a group of friends. We actually took the idea of group economics and we wanted to actually put it into practice and put it into play. So that's how we got here. Actually, yesterday made 2 years we've been in business. So we've been doing this for 2 years. We've been we became entrepreneurs and we've been learning on this journey. And once again, like he said, our whole goal and our whole mission is to really just inspire and really teach our community how to obtain wealth, how to build wealth through multiple streams of income, and really how just to maintain what you have once you have built it up so you can pass it down to generations that'll come after you.
That's phenomenal. But, gentlemen, I have to ask the obvious question, which is where did this all begin and who had the idea to start a podcast?
Okay, so I say Black Wealth Renaissance really started before Black Wealth Renaissance.
Yeah.
So the other two partners of our group, Jared and Kelly, were my roommates in college. And all the time we were in school, we always would sit down, we talk, we always bounced the idea of having a podcast off. We always would talk about like sports and music and things like that. But as time went on, like as we got closer to the end of our college days, we really started focusing more on like a lot of the things we talk about with BWR, which is like finances, like how credit works, economic opportunities for Black people. And we really were just wondering, we had a lot of conversations about like how could Black people be helped in America? And like
Yeah.
a lot of the things that we always came back to was that a lot of our struggles are rooted in economics. So like the idea, we kind of would talk about it and it just kind of fizzled out after some time. Like we ended up graduating and we just didn't really talk about it. But then I think it was the April after I graduated, Jared had came across the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. And we read Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like he read it and then he pestered all of us. He was like, man, y'all gotta read this book. Y'all gotta read this book. So like eventually I just went ahead and read it and like we all ended up reading it and it really relit that fire up under us because it was like we already had started kind of feeling this way about economics, like economics being the answer, like just how personal finances are a lot more important than people like to give them credit for.
Yeah.
So we were like, okay, this is information that's very valuable that we weren't taught in school. And like, we just were like, it's crazy. Nobody's teaching this. We don't see this anywhere we are. So we just were like, let's start a channel of some sort where we can just spread this information. That's how Black Wealth Renaissance really started as an Instagram page 2 years ago, like Jalen was talking about. Jared and I were just having a conversation one day. I was at work. He just got off. I was like, man, let's just start the page. Like we keep talking about this. We hoarding this information for ourselves. Let's just share it, put it out there and share it with people. And then like from there, like the page, it started off, it was real slow. I mean, like everybody starts off with 0 followers. Everybody always like, y'all grew fast. We started off with 0 followers like everybody else in the first month. We didn't really have much traction. Nobody was really following. Nobody was picking up on the content, stuff like that. We just kept going. And then like 2 months later, we just started catching steam. Kelly got involved at the top of the year. And I think by that time, like January, that's 2019,
Mhm.
we were at around 20,000 followers. Like because we had just been consistent posting with it, and from there, later, what it was in February.
Yeah, around the beginning of February.
In the beginning of February, Jalen came on and helped the team too. So like now we got all four of us. We working on these things, and the podcast just felt like a natural extension of what we were doing because we had already been talking about a podcast. We always had thought about it. So the podcast just felt like the next natural step, and that's just kind of how I got started.
Sweet. Now, I'm kind of curious. Like you said, you guys are 50% of the entire team that is here, right? So how did you guys decide on what roles you were going to play? Did you fall into your roles or did you define them?
Ooh, that's very interesting because from the beginning, like, we really didn't define any roles. Like, it was one point where everybody was just kind of doing something just to keep the business going. Really and truly starting off, we didn't even look at it as a business. This was pretty much just like a passion project, something really just to give back, something to just, we weren't looking for anything in return. So it was just the whole team just trying to make sure, hey, how can we keep this thing going? How can we keep on moving forward? How can we keep everything staying afloat? And then maybe a month after we done our podcast, when did we LLC?
I think we did
In March.
Yeah,
so we ended up filing for our LLC in March
because we didn't monetize it.
Yeah, and once we started really, we turned it into LLC. We really started thinking of it as a business, and then we really started picking up our business acumen. We really started thinking about it. Okay, if we're going to take this thing serious, how can we maximize this? How can we make sure that everyone's not overlapping, doing the same thing? How can we make sure everyone's getting the most out of our time? And it was kind of natural with the roles because some of the things that we were all doing, for me, in instance, with the podcast, I was doing most of the editing, most of the uploading and everything like that. David was making a lot of the graphics and content like that. And Kelly and Jared, they would do a lot of things on the back end, a lot of administrative things. So we ended up, it took some time for us to really just say, okay, hey, we really need to start thinking about our roles. And I'm gonna be honest.
I think we was about a year in before we actually like decided that we need real roles to actually continue to grow as a business.
Yeah, it was probably around February because there was an event we ended up doing. We ended up meeting up with our guy Rich, Realtor Rich. He's out of Baton Rouge, and he's one of the top real estate agents. And he ended up giving us a book called The E-Myth Revisited by Michael E. Gerber. And that book, it really just drilled home a lot of things. It really just drilled home a lot of things with...
It was one story in particular. It was like a story about John, Paul,
Mike and Larry,
whatever their names was. Like the whole point of the story was like he was saying that they were doing exactly what we were doing.
Yeah.
Like we were basically... the way we worked our business was, it needs to get done. You're available, you do it. Like, and it was just like this rotating wheel where like I might make the content this day and post the graphics this day, then Jalen might do it. I might edit a podcast. Like we had no roles. We just were rotating, and it continued to grow and it continued to work. But the point of that story was saying that everything works until it doesn't. And like, that's whenever we really got serious about like, okay, guys, we need
structure,
some structure.
Because another big important part of the story was that if no one's responsible, who can be held accountable? So we were just looking at it. It kind of was like a foreshadow, like, okay, I don't want us to get to this level where we don't even want to do this anymore. Like roles are starting to become blurred and things are getting frustrated. So that's really when we were like, okay, this is when we need to pick out who's going to do what, who's going to do these jobs, and really just take care of these duties.
Got it. Nice, fellas. But see, that sounds wonderful because you were able to write that up in a soundbite. But that entire process of figuring out who was doing what, how many months did that take before you guys really felt like you were really into your flow?
I mean, to be honest, we still working on a full direct flow, like because it's been a process in growth altogether.
Got it.
Like it took at least a few months for us to like just iron out. I initially like who was doing what the most often, and then assigning roles based on that.
Got it.
Because like there's a couple things that we had like issues with whenever we were really just getting started out. On top of us not really defining roles, we also didn't focus on building out other teams early on. Like the way we were doing everything was like, okay, we came together as a team. We're the team. It was 4 of us. We the team. We don't need nobody else. And that I think was like the second biggest hurdle. Like first we get the ironing out who does what, but then after that, after we start divvying up into teams, we needed to realize like, okay, yeah, I may be over Instagram, I might be over all that stuff, the social medias, but it's going to be more than just what one person can handle whenever it's going to come to all the different aspects of handling this one channel. And like that's whenever we really started focusing on building a team.
Probably it was sometime like this year, but we ended up bringing a team member on late last year. She's our very first like VA. Her name is Caroline. Shout out to my girl Caroline. But that was like our first team member. But once again, it was really after we read that book, and then we really just started figuring out, okay, we got these positions, we got these roles, and now late 2020, we were starting to actively look for more people to put on the team. And I'm gonna be honest, like within these past few months, we've really like ramped up our team, people being on our team. And I do apologize. We had someone else on our team before Caroline. Her name is Bree. And Bree really helped us with our branding and really just like solidifying and giving us that crisp design and everything with our content and everything like that. So she was really one of the first people on our team. She was an independent contractor, but she's still very vital and integral to our success. But after that, we started realizing, okay, what are some things that I don't need to be doing? What are some things that I can let someone else do, things that I really don't want to do? So then that's when we started moving forward. And I think one of the first things was editing the podcast. So we ended up finding someone on Fiverr to edit our podcast for us. Then the next thing was like, okay, we need someone to write blogs, and then we need someone to start taking control of our Instagram and posting our content. So we just started building, and really within these past 3 to 4 months, we've added a lot of layers to our team, and it's been really, really good with our growth. And it's been fun getting here, but it's also been a challenge because at the same time, being an entrepreneur, there's 2 things. Like one, you feel like he said, I can do it all. Sometimes people they won't do it as good as me. And then another thing is just with building a team, you're going to go through people. So you have to realize and understand that, hey, the first try is not going to be your very first success, because now you have to start understanding, okay, some people are not going to fit into your organization. You have to realize and figure out who's going to be the best fit for you. We've had to fire people. We've had to let people go. And like, it's not the funnest thing, but at the end of the day, we still have a goal that we need to work towards.
Man. What you're doing right now, you don't know, is that you're coaching me. Seriously, like you guys are coaching me. Like, seriously. But here is my other question to that, though. With that, when you take on a team, because it's one thing when you're working with your peers, that's great. You're all buddies, you guys know each other. But when you take on team members, you're taking on different energies, different people, different mindsets, right? With that, my follow-up question is this. Does leadership come naturally to you? Or is that something you guys are learning?
I think leadership in the sense of like just wanting to be a person who can take action, I think that's very natural to us. The unnatural aspect of it would be more so the actual education of bringing people on and getting them to do what we did. I think that's like one of the biggest hurdles that we faced. Just like, like it's still a work in progress, but like creating directives to get people to do the things that you need them to do the way you want them to do it.
Yeah.
That was like that was and still is a big struggle because, like you said, you can get people in that aren't necessarily the right fit, that aren't the right people for you. But the most key thing about it is if you have a system that this person can come in and just do what you need them to do from day one, then it doesn't really. It kind of starts eliminating a lot of the qualities about a person to a degree, because you can get them to give you the result. It doesn't matter who it is, they're going to get you the result you want because the parameters you have set in place, they were very strict, they were very direct, and they gave them the guide to doing what you needed them to do.
Which aspect of the business for you guys did you, or were you surprised, required more work than you ever expected?
That's a good one. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
Everything.
Like probably like the systems, like really just creating a system because we didn't really understand that.
I want to speak to it more because Jalen mentioned earlier us having to let go of some people.
Okay.
I think a lot of that came in because our systems weren't good.
Yeah.
We didn't have good parameters in place for these people. We didn't have anything set for them to really truly follow. It kind of just was our communication with them that was their directive. So it left a lot of guesswork. It left a lot of room for them to think.
And just back to like the systems for anyone who's out there, whenever we're speaking about systems, we're just speaking about a certain way that you do certain things to get a certain result.
Yeah.
So at any job that you're going to, they're going to give you a certain way that they do things. If you go to McDonald's, they're going to show you, okay, this is the McDonald's way to take orders, to do a burger. This is how you drop fries. This is how long it needs to be there. So that part was probably the most tedious part just because, one, we had to literally sit there and think it out. And then we had to write it out. So and then you also have to test it out because we know how to do it, but at the same time, is it plain enough? Is it simple enough for the next person to understand what we're trying to say? So I think that was probably one of the most tedious things, but also just really educating yourself to a lot of the things that have to go on, like so much of the moving parts within business. As far as like email marketing, there's a time where we had to pick up a book. We literally we read this book. It's called The Invisible Selling Machine, and it teaches you about the importance of email marketing. Then after we read that book, we sat out and we created email systems, email funnels. So we had to actually sit there and do that. Same thing with learning how to make content, with learning how to edit the audio. We actually had to sit there and really just learn and understand what's going on. But at the same time, you also got to learn about things in business. You got to learn, okay, now we need a CPA. Now you need to understand how do you protect yourself while you're doing this. Now you have to go ahead and understand, okay, now we need a lawyer. Now you need everything else that's starting to come in play. Also just understanding the importance of like having your bank account set up, having
your stuff set up the right way.
Yeah, making sure that you're fully legit. All of that, we had to learn a lot of that. I went to school for business, but at the same time, they didn't really teach us how to create a business from the ground up. They taught me how to go into someone's business and do a specific job well. They taught me either how to market someone else's business. They didn't say, okay, this is where you're going to go to for the Secretary of State. This is how you file an EIN. This is how you get a virtual address.
This is where you go get your DMV.
They didn't teach any of that. So we actually had to actively learn those things in the process of still growing a brand. Because once again, like I mentioned, we have a brand that's growing. And on the back end, people is like, oh man, what you're doing is amazing. It's great and everything. But at the same time, we still don't have the groundwork that's needed, the really strong foundation for it to keep on going. And we also read another book called Traction. And with Traction, we speak about that. Like what could happen if you grow too fast, but you don't have the infrastructure to withstand that.
You can't scale. Yeah. Oh, you're talking about books. Don't get me started, Jalen. Don't get me started. Don't get me started. But see, two things come to mind. And I don't know how you guys feel, but I'm just going to ask this question. I remembered when I filed for my LLC for my first business. And when I did it, I had my sister with me and we went down to the county office in my town, and we did it. Boom, 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 boom. Did it in one day, super fast. And it hit me like a ton of bricks because I said to my sister, I said, do you realize that we just incorporated a business in less than an hour? However, it takes the average person months to get a job. Months to get a job. But we started a business in an hour legally, just boom, 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 boom.
Yeah, that's facts. Yeah, you can definitely, yeah.
You can go from being unemployed to CEO.
Yes, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It's awe-inspiring when you think about it. However, that's why I always appreciate the content that you both create. Well, all of you and your team create, because every week you guys bring on different entrepreneurs and investors from all walks of life. And so my question for you is this. Before you were able to lure all these wonderful people to come on your platform, it was just y'all.
Mm-hmm.
I listened to episode 1. It was just 4 lovely gentlemen talking amongst themselves. Tell me what it was like starting to build that traction and what it was like trying to invite others to come on your platform, especially when you're just starting out.
Well, I think it wasn't that bad with us with starting out getting guests for the pod. Because really, when it came to our social media, whenever we very first started, that was really kind of the basis of it almost. Like our social media channel was meant to not only inspire and educate, but also to like highlight a lot of these same people that we ended up talking to. So like whenever it came to just getting people on, I think the biggest thing, like the biggest hurdle we had was actually just getting ourselves convinced that we could get people to come onto our show. We just like, man, what if they say no? Like that was our concern whenever we very first was getting started. Like, what if they say no? It's like, what if they don't want to come on the podcast? Because it's like, before we started Black Wealth Renaissance, a lot of the people that we got to network with, they didn't really, whenever we tried to engage with them, whenever it was just us, not a brand, they really weren't too receptive to anything we were talking about. Like, as we were building out our brand, as we built out this platform, a lot more people wanted to come back and talk to us. People that was like, hey, you could go look in the DMs, like they left us on red. Now they reaching back out, hey guys, I see you got a podcast. Like,
yeah. What's up, you fellas?
And that's so true. And I think one of the biggest things was we came from a place of just asking questions, and then we went to a place where we were adding value to them now. So it was beneficial for them to want to come speak to us, because now you get a chance to speak about what you're doing in front of our audience. And I think that was probably a great thing that helped us with our podcast. With getting guests is we already had a large enough following on social media, because like David said, we didn't start our podcast until March. And we already had been growing, and by the time we got to February,
it was at like 50K.
Yeah, I think we was like 50,000. So we announced we have a podcast. So a few people who already were familiar with us, they're like, okay, yeah, like we love what you're doing. We'll come on, like it's easy.
Yeah, it's a natural fit for you guys. Yeah.
And I think with us just starting off like as the 4 friends, I think it was real natural at first. I'm not gonna lie. I remember our first podcast. We were like, man, what are we gonna talk about? Like, that is.
I was just like, man, we sit here and we'll have hour-long conversations on the phone where like we'll be talking about stuff. I'm like, man, you know what? That would have been pretty good if we had that on the podcast. And like it just kind of grew from there. It's like, okay, we keep talking about it. Okay, let's finally sit down, write down some topics, and just go at it. So like we didn't really listen to a whole lot of different podcasts before then. Like we just wanted to have our own show where we were gonna talk about the things that we thought about. So like whenever we first started out, we just were talking about the things we have conversations about, like AI, different things that are happening like across the tech industry, marketing and branding, just different things. We just wanted to
just different stock things,
retirement. We had an episode talking about that, just kind of putting out game that people wouldn't
normally speak about.
Yeah, and from there, like whenever we seen that people were receptive to what we had, we just noticed that like we only know so much. Like
Yeah.
the things we talk about, that's great. People are finding value in them. It's a conversation. But what we really wanted to do is to bring more value to that conversation. So that's when the guests like came in. Our first guest was actually a guy we knew from around Lafayette, our home area. Real estate. He's a real estate entrepreneur. His actual Instagram name is Real Estate Entrepreneur.
His name is O'Neal Parker.
O'Neal Parker, my boy O'Neal. Yeah. He was the first guest on our podcast. He's like a 26-year-old with like 20-some rental properties. So we're like, okay, let's ask him about real estate so our audience can learn more, because they can only learn so much from us. And like after that, we seen the reception from like what we were doing, just like with us, which was good, to like getting a guest on, like how much more value and things that people were like really like, man, I really appreciated that episode. Like, he taught me this that I'm going to use tomorrow. Like, okay, maybe this is something we should keep working on, keep going to it. And like guests just kind of kept rolling in from there. Although we did an episode with our guests since like
we've had a few episodes where it's just us, but a lot of them it's been guests since episode 16?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
Now, here is the burning question that I've been dying to ask you both. Over this period of time, you guys have been able to hear story after story, experience after experience of all these different wonderful people, right? And there is a common narrative on social media, which I love, which is curate your feed, right? Make sure that your feed is about people and things that you want to see, because we all know that we're impressionable. And it's also the other narrative, which is make sure that if you're not in the right circle, create your new circle. Whether you guys recognize it or not, every time that you bring on a guest, every time you interview someone, not only are you exposing other people to a new person they can add to their virtual circle, that's a new person in your sphere of influence, right? So with that, whether you recognize it or not, that has to have an effect on your psyche and your mindset. So I want to know from you guys, over the past 2 years and change now, how has the stories of the people that you've spoken to over the years affected how you see yourself and how you see business?
Every podcast guest leaves me with at least one thing that that burns in my mind, that keeps me like focused on track and really just working on growing my business and bettering my business. I know the first thing that I could really think of that when it really like changed the way I was moving at the time was my boy Byron on episode 11 of our podcast. He said one thing, and it was like it was about audiobooks and music. He was like, you done heard the same song 20 times, 30 times, 100 times. Go cut on something that you haven't heard before that can actually educate you, that can feed you. And I was like, dang, that makes a lot of sense. Like, you can gain so much information just passively. It's so much easier to learn if you take the same time you're spending to do like leisure activities, like listening to music or watching movies or something like that, and just cut on something educational. It's still the same act you're doing. You just listening. You're not doing anything different. Yeah. You could do whatever else you want. That one right there really, really stuck with me.
With me, I think just listening to a lot of these people, the way I feel about business and life, I feel like I could do anything. If this person can do it, I could do anything, because I see these people doing it. It just takes the work, and it takes the dedication and the drive. And I also don't let anyone put any limits on anything now, because I hear a lot of people say, I can't do this because I done that. But I just saw a man who said he went from being broke and but now he's making $100+ a month. So what is the difference with you? Or I also saw a woman who has kids, but she's able to do extraordinary things. Why can't you do it? And that's another thing about just seeing people on like Instagram and just talking to those people. You get to see a lot of different makeups and a lot of different backgrounds. You get to experience a lot of different things that people had to go through. Even with Aisha Sheldon, her grow up, she said she almost was a drug dealer, but now she's one of the greatest real estate minds I've ever seen. Like,
yes, she is.
She pimps the government. I don't want to say pimple.
Yes,
but she
yes,
knows,
yes.
like, she knows, like,
She
the
pimping them.
loophole. She knows everything. Like, so from her being exposed to drug culture to now
Yeah.
being able to say, okay, I own 50 plus real estate doors, and all of that was done with no mortgage. That was done with cash out of my pocket. So things like that, that gets me, that always lets me know that anything is possible, and that whatever I want to do, I can do it. Once again, I just got to put the work in it, got to make sure that I believe, but I also don't let people put limitations on themselves.
I love that, fellas. I love that. However, let me know if you feel the same way, because over time, I co-sign with everything you guys are saying because I feel the same way. However, there's a challenge, right? There's a blessing and a curse that comes with that. Because once you truly do see and believe that you are limitless, right? That, like you just said, you know that if you're willing to put the work in, you can do whatever you want. That is a fact.
Yeah.
However, that is a two-edged sword, because when you see so many wonderful opportunities, when you interview wonderful people in all different types of businesses, you create wonderful connections. And they all like, hey, if you ever want to do X, I'm available. Hey, if you ever want to do D, I'm available. You have, it's like, it turns into like a business candy store. Don't you agree?
Yeah.
all of a sudden, you're like, am I doing Shopify? Am I buying houses? Am I buying trucks? Am I buying more stocks? How do you stay focused, fellas? Because when you recognize that all these opportunities are available to you, and not only that, now y'all have a serious Rolodex. I'm not gonna lie, let's be real now. Y'all got a real Rolodex of connections now. How do you stay focused on, no, I am doing X for now and doing other things later?
That's a good one.
I think it's a real good one because, like, I think shiny object syndrome, we talked about that a couple times with Brother Dre on the podcast and a couple other people. Like, it's something we fell victim to at first. We can't sit here and act like it didn't happen, because, like you said, it's like the business candy store. You're like, damn, you did this and it worked. Like,
I could do it.
I could do it. So we know like, I got an insurance adjuster's license. Me and him got an insurance adjuster's license. After talking to Brandon, he a millionaire. He got the insurance adjuster. He's like, okay, he did that. You go out there, you can make good money. So we just kind of got the process started. But then whenever you just see all these different things, you got to understand that your time got to go into these things.
Yes.
We didn't have the amount of time to dedicate to that because we still trying to build our own thing here. And we've had that happen to us a couple times with a few different things. Like,
I go into another one. After we got off a podcast with Chris Johnson, he was talking about how he done drop shipping and how he created his own watch brand.
Yep.
And we ended up buying a brand from him. We didn't even use it yet. Like, when I tell you, we spent some money on it, and it was just like, damn, why did we do that?
Yeah. Like, I'm operating on impulse, but as time has gone, like, it's become easier to really focus, because I think what we had to do was focus on what exactly is our niche. Like, what is it that we do? Because it's great to hear about what everybody else does and the things that they do to make money and all these different amazing ways they can make money. But, like, we already have our own thing going on.
Yeah.
Like that, I guess that's the realization you have to come to. Like, coming in and realizing, like, okay, I got this going on, and what is it that I'm doing that results in me getting paid? Because I can go and try to learn this brand new shiny thing that somebody just told me about, like, from scratch. But I'm starting from zero, when chances are I'm already like a 60 or a 70 and something else. I just gotta keep pushing. So it was just like coming to that realization. And I think, like, as time has gone on, as we get more guests, obviously we've become better as podcasters. We become better at, like, kind of compartmentalizing that type of stuff and just taking the little gems that we get from each episode and using those to implement and grow what we currently have going on versus trying to get something brand new started from the ground.
And I kind of want to piggyback off of that too, because also with that, we just learned from, like, mistakes, like buying the watch brand. Like, okay, guys, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
Like, we always remember about it though. Now, like, anytime we want to talk about it, we make sure, okay, we deliberate and we say, okay, what type of sense does this make? Does this align with what we're trying to do? So that's another thing that we have to do. And really the way we just figured out like what our focus was, like David said, we really figured out what's paying us the most, where we getting the most engagement, where we getting the most attention. So how can we maximize that? Realize we got a great podcast, we put out great content. So that's our niche. Right now, instead of us trying to buy real estate and trying to do all of this and that, we're going to figure out how we can build this up,
How we can
maximize it, and then move on.
Yeah.
Nice.
I know just even just a little bit more with some transparency on it. Like I know one of the biggest pain points I think we had with us not having a business plan starting out is we didn't have an effective monetization plan for everything that we had going on. So like now with everything we got going on, with seeing like how the previous mistakes we made affected us, it just kind of helped us like lean into like, okay, this is where our focus is going to go. Looking at what makes us money, looking at how we can grow and scale those things versus trying to start something new every time.
You know, fellas, I forgot to ask you another question. Is this your first business venture?
This is our first, no, technical second legal business venture.
Yeah.
But I mean, our other
But
LLC was like within the same month or two of this one, wouldn't it?
Yeah, so before this, we tried wholesaling.
Mhm.
And I'm pretty sure if we would have kept on with it, we probably would have been some wholesaling. Like,
I would go back even further with it. So like, whenever we were both in school, like Jared went to a different school than us.
Yeah.
But Jared, Kelly, and I, we were roommates. We did a couple different things. Like we had a couple of hustles and stuff that we tried. And I think it was summer of 2017 was the first time we actually like tried to launch a business. We each were like, but we each tried to do our own thing. So Jared was over here trying to do a dropshipping store. Kelly's over here trying to start a rap blog. I'm over here trying to start an influencer page, and we each trying to do our own thing. And like we learning these different skills and whatnot. But all of those ventures failed. And then eventually, after we started Black Wealth Renaissance October 2018, I want to say Jalen and I started wholesaling before that.
Yeah, it was around August of 2018.
Yeah.
July, August.
But those things that Jared, Kelly, and I were doing, those were kind of like some of the basis of our skills for BWR with some of the things that we were learning. So all the different experiences and things that we had kind of just snowballed into BWR.
Yeah.
To make a long answer shorter, it's technically our first venture that we could say earned something.
Yeah.
But, okay, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I even talk to my story, like even like in school, like you said, I was trying different things. I remember me and my frat brothers, we were selling shirts at one point, and we had people like buying shirts from us on campus. I remember there was a point where I pulled up after a party. I was trying to sell like plates and stuff like that. But I also remember like just doing different things, trying to make some bread on campus and really just be innovative on campus while I was in school. But I was still trying to graduate, and I still had like a little bit of my wild, playful side in me. So I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't like going as hard. Even after I graduated, though, I started a YouTube channel too, and my YouTube channel started picking up traction. But once again, like you said, that was kind of like me developing those skills that I'll be using with editing and creating content and certain things like that. So a lot of that, it really just compound, and it really just, we kind of relied on some of those skills once we started creating Black Wealth Renaissance. And it was really just like a blessing in disguise.
You know, I always love asking that question because everyone has the exact same answer. Everyone has the exact, which is in reality, no, it wasn't. And I'm thankful you both shared that, because people always have this, well, I shouldn't say people always, some have the wrong concept that this has to work, this has to be my thing. However, I too have had, let's see, travel agent business, travel blogger, so many things. That's a part of the process though. It's all a part of the process. And like you just both said, it all adds to what you're doing now. So here is my follow-up question to that, fellas. Do you know what you're building?
Yes, we have a vision. So
yeah,
what we're building is an edutainment media company that we eventually want to branch out into fintech, because we have a couple of different ideas with ways we can help ease Black people's lives with money. We've been talking to a lot of different people at FinTech. I know that's something that we real big on. And outside of that, that podcast. The podcast is probably the third key leg of Black Wealth Renaissance, everything we're trying to get done. Really want to take the podcast and expand it more from just being like what everybody looks at podcasts as being in our space. We see it as just like everybody thinks of podcasts as just interviews. We want to take it to another space within our realm. Like, so eventually what it looks like is us producing other people's content, us producing shows and things around this nature. Yeah.
I love it. Oh, I love it. Sorry, guys, that just excites me. I love that. That sounds so awesome. All right, so for the angry people, because I know they're angry on the gram, let me let y'all comment real quick. I'll let them take some questions. Turn comments on. Turn on comments. Hello, beautiful people on the gram. If you guys have some questions or comments, specifically questions, go ahead and put it in the question box, and we'll be taking questions now. In the meantime, I gotta pay respects to the beautiful people who are here on YouTube. Shout out to Raphael Husbands, who says shout out to the Renaissance.
Hey, shout out Raphael.
What's up, Raphael?
Raphael's good people. Shout out to Kevin. Hey, thank you, y'all. Thank you. Thank you, everybody who's supporting us tonight. Because I love it. So I'm gonna pretend like they're not here. So listen. I love it because we are living in such an exciting age where, like I said, when you really recognize that everything is a Google search away, it can get a little addictive in terms of what you want to do for yourself and what you want to build. However, I wonder, this is what I'm struggling with, and now we're going to have like a support group right now. This is very self-serving, fellas, which is this. Do you ever find that you talk to peers, friends, and family, and they don't quite get it?
Wow, like
That's part of the whole reason.
That's the whole one of the whole reasons we started this too, because we realized once we were bringing up some of these conversations, like people be like, even with us being entrepreneurs, people just why don't you just work? Like
2 years ago, nobody wanted to hear nothing about what we had to say.
Not at all.
Like they didn't want to hear that. It didn't sound real. It didn't sound plausible. What you talking about? You want to own a business and you want to buy real estate and you want to do this, and it don't make sense. Yeah,
like why don't you just go get a job and keep on doing what you're doing? Like, but at the same time, it's just like I know there's more to this. I know I'm not just meant to be working for someone just to get off of work, be tired, go watch TV, talk about the next sporting outlet and all of this and that. I know there's more than that. So there was definitely times where it's just like, okay, what like who can I talk to? And at the same time, like
we leaned on each other. Yeah.
Like us being friends, and that's why he said we would be on the phone call for hours just talking about different things, because we were some of the only people that were open enough to understand this. But myself being blessed, I'm gonna be honest, a lot of my friends are into like the entrepreneurial space. Another one of my best friends, he's a tattoo artist. So like me talking to him, he has his own shop. So he understands, okay, this thing, like this is possible. I see you just opened up and became one of the first black tattoo shops in the city of Lafayette. So like talking to people like that and really just surrounding yourself with people like that, I feel like it makes it a little bit easier once you really don't have any family or friends like that. And I wanted to talk about the circle, like you were saying earlier. A lot of the times whenever we were interviewing people, a lot of people said the same thing. Like I really had to wing and cut myself off, and it wasn't to be shysty, to be shady, to say, okay, hey, I'm trying to switch up and be different, but at the same time, I'm trying to get to a different point in my life. So what I have to do is I can't keep on carrying this baggage. Like if I am walking through or if I'm swimming, I'm not going to keep on heavy clothes and I'm not going to keep on all this baggage. I'm sorry, I got to shed it so I can go faster. And at the same time, you can go fast alone, but you can go further with others. Yeah. You have to find your tribe and you have to find people who you can talk to and who you can lean upon. But I also want to talk about not creating a sounding board of yes men who just think about the same things that you think about, because sometimes it is good to have those people who are going to rebuttal you, because sometimes you have to take a step back and really just figure out, okay, is this making sense? Like, why are they thinking like that? Why do they think like that? And why do I think like that? You have to look at it from all angles. You can't just be all about me, is my way the right way. You have to look at it from all angles, especially just with life, because you look at things from a different perspective, and everybody looks at life from a different perspective. So sometimes you might be the unreasonable person, but sometimes you might not be.
But and see, both those things are absolutely true. However, history has proven that the unreasonable person is the person who makes history, right?
Yep.
People say that Jeff Bezos is unreasonable. They say that Elon Musk is unreasonable. They said that, who's the guy who created Apple? Steve Jobs.
Steve
Jobs.
That he was a wacko. Like, but there's brilliance in that. So I think there has to be a harmony, and you have to have people around you, like I said, who are a sounding board, but also people who bring balance.
Mm-hmm.
Because you need to have that
Yeah.
balance.
In-
in your
You
thing.
definitely gotta have people around you that encourage that unreasonable like that. Because I understand what you're saying with that. Like, I think that's probably the biggest hurdle whenever it comes to like whenever you have those people that are currently around you
Mhm.
that like they don't support you, is because what you're thinking and what you're doing and what you're talking about
They can't
is
fathom.
unreasonable.
Yeah, they can't
Yes.
fathom.
No, it's just not even, it
so
is
true.
technically unreasonable. Like, because if you need to tell me like, oh, you're gonna go and you're gonna try to make $50,000 in a month, people don't make that in a year out here. That
That's
sounds
true.
unreasonable. How you gonna do that?
That's true.
It's kind of like a expansion in the way you're thinking. That's why we love talking about mindset a lot on Black Wealth Renaissance, because like I think it's very, very true. Like, the amount of money you touch is definitely affected by the way you think about money. Like,
yeah.
if you think it's impossible for you to have $10,000, if you think $10,000 is just
A lot of money?
Ooh.
it's
You're in
going to be
bad
so
shape.
much harder for you to get there,
Yeah.
because you're putting all these mental barriers in the way. Like, oh, but what about this and what about that and what about this and what about that? When in all reality, you just need to be focused on your goal and how are you going to attain that goal. And
That-
whenever things come in the way, you got to find solutions or ways around it, because you only, like we always say, you got two options whenever anything goes left. You're going to fold or you're going to figure it out.
I like that, fellas. Ooh, I like that. I like that.
You're going to fold or figure it out. It's the only things you can do, because at the end of the day, I mean,
Life going to go on.
yeah.
It's
Life going to
true.
continue. Like,
It's true.
it is what it is.
That's so true. Okay, I got to shout out Chris. Hey, Chris. Chris said it. Normal people never change the world. That's so true.
Big facts, Chris.
That's so
That
very
is
true. For real. And then I remember a while ago, I wrote a post, and some people liked it, some people didn't like it. It's okay. But it's true. I wrote a post a while ago, which is true, which is being broke is hard. Being rich is hard. Choose your heart, because that's just in this life, on this planet, it's going to be hard work however you cut it, but we get to choose how we go about it. However, very few people want to take accountability.
Let's talk about that. That's
My favorite. My
Very
favorite.
few people want to take accountability because it's easier pretending to be the victim.
Ooh.
However, those are the same people who feel uncomfortable when they see you reaching, when you take accountability, and they see you stretching yourself. Then what you're doing is you're basically putting a mirror against them,
Mm-hmm.
and whether or not they recognize it or not, they don't like their reflection, and so they act out. And the sad thing is that comes from, sadly, sometimes it comes from close family and friends.
Mm-hmm.
And that hurts. That hurts. But at the same time, you have to keep your blinders on and remember that that person is hurt because of their own decisions, not because of you. But tell me, what are your thoughts on it, fellas?
My thoughts. The accountability part. I feel like that's a large part
Personal
which
finance.
people figure out. Not even just with being successful. A lot of people don't want to be held accountable.
No, they
A lot
don't.
of times we want to blame it on certain outside factors, or this person or that person. This why I wasn't able to do it. But 9 times out of 10, at the end of the day, if you look back, a lot of times there's things that you could have done to prevent this, or there's things that you could have done to change the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you can't prevent things from happening, but you can change the outcome once you figure out, okay, this is what the situation I'm faced with. Let me make sure, hey, and also life happens. We understand life happens, but you can't let life be the overall arching theme of why you're not getting things done. There's going to be a time where you got to say, okay, I'm not doing what I need to do. It's not my mom. It's not my dad. It's not this. It's myself.
At the end of the day, you only have yourself to blame.
Yep.
That's true.
That's a poem that my mom gave me whenever I was actually a child. Something Ben Carson's mom gave me. Like, people, I think that's such a foundational thing we talking about, because it's real easy to like put yourself in the role of the victim. Like, society really, like, society tells you to condone it. Like, oh, this isn't your fault. This is because of X, Y, Z. Oh, this isn't your fault. This is because of that. But life is 90% of how you react to things. Like, it's not about the things that happen to you. It's about your reaction. I could slap Jalen in the face right now. I could, but that would be that wouldn't be.
That would be a bad decision.
Like, I'd slap him.
And you got a lot of expensive equipment right here. I don't want to break this.
But like, his reaction would determine what would happen to all our equipment, right?
No, your action is slapping. What's going to happen?
I'm sorry, I was silly. But no, look, but on a serious note though, like, accountability is really, really so important, because whenever we talk about personal finances, like, that's one of the big things we want people to understand. It's like, it's so easy whenever you don't have a plan and you're not holding yourself accountable to fall into that rut of thinking that money is like, it's just going to be a problem for everyone. Like, it's never going to be something you can solve. Whenever you like start creating a plan and becoming intentional, and whenever you fall short, you don't beat yourself up about it. You just hold yourself accountable, and you want to like make sure you reach your goal next time. That's how you start seeing progress. That's how you really start seeing change. Because otherwise, like, if you don't have a plan, but you trying to save money, you wasting your time.
Yeah. But I do think that the problem, there's levels to people's aversion to accountability, but I truly do believe it's because in their mind, they view accountability as being synonymous with shame, right? And so to understand that you have to break those two apart, is everything okay, David?
No, I said that's deep.
Oh, okay.
I like that.
I was like, oh no, did I say something wrong? Did that hit your soul? Did that hit your spirit, David? Okay. A little bit, David? Okay. But they do. So they have to recognize that there is a difference between the two, because shame holds us back, right? Because with shame, you're constantly saying to yourself, well, I did this wrong, and I did this wrong, and I did this wrong, and I feel bad because I did this wrong. And all you're doing is ruminating over the bad action you took, or the lack of action you took. However, accountability is like, man, I dropped the ball. However, I need to press forward. How do I fix this? That's the mental shift with accountability. That's the difference between shame and accountability. However, like I said, people don't recognize that. And so that's why, at least Gia's thesis as to why people have an aversion to accountability.
I kind of want to add one more ingredient to that.
Please.
It's fear. Fear also. A lot of times people are fearful of being ashamed of failing. So sometimes people will be like, okay, I don't want to look bad or look stupid in front of my family, because guess what? They told me I couldn't do it. So now if I fail, I'm just proving them wrong. Now I look stupid. But one of the biggest things with changing your mindset is you have to embrace failure. You got to look at failure like you're looking at it from the eyes of a toddler. And whenever I say this, I mean, whenever you have a baby in your presence, or whenever you see a toddler in your presence, I want you to really observe this toddler. They're not scared of anything. Whenever I went home the last time, my best friend, I was around him, and he has a daughter. She just turned 1 yesterday. And whenever I'm telling you, she's climbing on everything, and I'm like, oh man, she's about to fall. But I'm like, and then I had to take a step back, because he didn't react to her being on the edge of the sofa. And I was looking at her face. She was not afraid of anything. So she just knew, hey, I'm playing. I'm a baby. A lot of times, whenever we're growing up, the people in our lives, they'll take away that aspect of us being like a child in that thing. Because a lot of times we'll think, oh, it's just a child, they can't do that. But we need to give children a lot more credit than what they have, because they're very resilient. They fall whenever they're learning how to walk. You have to let a baby fall. If you keep on trying to, oh, don't fall, they'll never learn how to walk. You have to let them fall and get up on their own. Even as a baby touching the stove, hey, that's hot, don't touch it. They're gonna do it anyway. And I feel like
do it that first time.
Yeah, and I feel like that's what happens a lot of the times is whenever we're growing up, people are trying to protect us from the outside world and not giving us that credit for being as resilient, of being able to get up once you fall. So I think that's another thing. People have to learn how to embrace fear and failure. Don't be afraid of anything. Like, you really just have to look at it and really just go head first, because it's not killing you. It's going to make you stronger. Now, I'm not saying, hey, go walk on the freeway and stand in the middle of the thing. No, that's crazy. But go for your dreams. Go for your goals. If it sounds crazy, like, I don't care. Go do it. Just try it. Take the chance, because you never know. You might be able to walk on that first chance. But even if you fall, get back up, because once you really embrace fear, that's whenever you're going to start becoming successful. A lot of people want to talk about these great people who are so at the top, but they don't look at all of these failures that they had to go through. There's a lot of failures that Jeff Bezos had to go through. There's a lot of failures that Michael Jackson went through. There's a lot of failures that Obama went through. There's a lot of failures that anyone has ever.
Anybody that reached a high level, they probably had an equivalent low level that they had before. It's just this kind of the science of it. Like, you're not going to be perfect. And I think it's funny because, like, everybody always wants to think it's gonna be perfect. It's like, you just gotta, there's no such thing as a perfect situation. There's no such thing as a perfect anything. Like you might look at Jeff Bezos' situation like, man, that's perfect. But I guarantee you it wasn't at one point. At one point he was scared as hell. Fearful. He didn't know what was gonna happen the next day. Failure was right around the corner. But I think the key thing while we talking about failure, I want everybody to like, that's an entrepreneur, to focus on is having faith. Like, even if it comes to you being scared, even if it comes to like a loss that you took, you gotta have faith and belief in your vision, that so that you can continue to push and see it through. That, like, you're gonna get to the goal that you set, no matter what happened. If you got faith with it, that's all I gotta say on that one. Just faith is big faith.
I wish you could drop your mic right now, David. That was good.
No, hold on, that's too. But yeah, man, my brother preached on that one.
I'm sorry. Yes, he is. I'm so sorry. I am missing all these phenomenal comments here on the gram. You guys are killing it. I promised that I would answer these questions real quick before we wrap up, which is this. Someone asks, do you outsource or use software for all of your audio and video editing?
Okay, so we outsource for all our audio and video editing now. Initially, we did everything on our own. All audio was edited on GarageBand by my guy right here. All videos was edited on iMovie between either me or him at first, but now we have a team to do those things. Really, to get our audio edited, y'all, we just go on Fiverr. I'm not gonna tell y'all. I'm not gonna lie to y'all. He kind of, we keeping them exclusive. We can't.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. When you find someone good, don't let them go.
Sorry, y'all. But yeah, they got good people on Fiverr. Like, you just got to get them directives. I mean, it's pretty cheap. We get our podcast edited for like less than $80. And what video now? We just go find a design. Like, if you looking to outsource your stuff, the best way you should go about it is just going ahead and looking on Fiverr.
Yeah, Fiverr or Upwork.
Yeah, like those services, unless you know somebody personally that you want to work with, like our video editor, that's somebody Jalen's been knowing since high school.
Okay, and then what's this other question here? Someone asks, how often do you update your workflow or system processes once or edited as needed?
So I guess they're asking like if you're building a system once and then it's just staying that way.
Nah, definitely it's a living document. It's living.
This is
It's
our
worth
first
it,
time
yeah.
doing this, y'all.
So like you have to go through a period of trial and error also, like when creating businesses. A lot of the times things are not going to be set in stone. A lot of times some of these things are not like a science. It's not going to give you, okay, XYZ equals XYZ. So sometimes you have to change and you have to work it out. And once again, like we said, everybody's not going to be able to understand certain things. So sometimes you have to rework the language and rework how you phrase certain things. So, but as long as you're able to get to a certain result while figuring out certain steps, I don't think you should change it. But sometimes if you figure out that, hey, this is not the best way to keep on going about it, by all means, I say keep on adapting, because once you adapt, that's how you're able to survive and keep on pushing. A lot of people who don't adapt to change and embrace it, you're not going to be able to be around for a long time. So you have to be able to understand how to adapt to keep on pushing.
Got it.
You ain't gonna change it. You know, if you ain't gonna change it, you better be like, this better have worked like a charm the first time. That's what you gotta have that thing down pat. It's giving you the exact result you want every time.
Now I have to ask, like I asked them before. I asked them before. Let me let the Instagram people Instagram. I asked them before if there was any questions or anything that I could not ask them, and they said they were an open book. So let's see if that's true or not. So fellas, hi. So let's talk shmoney. So with that, not how much, but how do you guys decide how to organize the funds that you are generating with your business?
So with BWR right now, we hadn't pulled profits out any. Everything we use is like everything we've generated is to grow and scale. Right now, I think what do you think our divvy up is? Like, how much do we use to pay our employees? Like, it's probably like maybe like right under 20%. We keep it like right under that. I know we got a lot of different softwares and things that we use. That's another big thing. Another big part of the budget.
As far as us like taking out money and paying ourselves, we've never like touched profit. Once again, like you said, it's pretty much like Nipsey Hussle, all money in. We know what our vision is. We know, okay, once we get to generating this amount of money consistently per month, then we're going to start taking profits. But right now, our whole goal is, this is like our baby. We want to make sure it's strong and healthy. It can take care of itself before it can take care of us. So as far as like just allocating profits, we don't really do any of that. But everything else is really just to grow the business and just make sure that we're able to keep on pushing it forward and keep this team. Yeah.
And I appreciate you both saying that, because I am assuming, I think I know the answer to this. Both of you guys have full-time jobs outside of BWR, correct?
No. So,
oh, sorry.
I do social media full time. I have another brand on social media as well. Mostly I'm into the digital marketing space, promo, affiliate marketing, that type of stuff.
Okay.
But we do have part-time jobs right now.
Okay.
We work part-time.
I mean. So you have outside income that is supporting you so that you don't have to eat the income from BWR.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, you got to do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. No, but you say that, David, oh, you got to do that. However, many people don't understand that. I see a lot of narratives on social media like, I quit my job, I started a business. I'm thinking, oh my.
That's bad, yeah.
Oh.
And I'll be honest, like around last year, last year in 2017, I quit my job.
2019.
I'm sorry, 2019. Last year, I quit my job, and it was before I actually had like a full solid plan in place. But I saw what was going on with Black Earth Renaissance, and I was like, okay, I have some savings, and I'm gonna just try to figure out if creating another source of income. But I knew what needed to be done with Black Earth Renaissance. So I was willing to make that sacrifice of me not being able to go out as much and do as many things as I would like to, so I can make sure that our vision was going to come to fruition. So at the same time, like there was, even up to the beginning of this year, I started cutting grass with like my dad and stuff on the side, and I'm just living off like the bare minimum that I can make, like just to make sure I got enough to pay my bills and just keep on pushing. But I also didn't look at, like, I knew that, hey, don't start expecting any money from Black Earth Renaissance because you know what the goal is, you know what you signed up with through this. So I just kept on pushing and just kept on trying to figure out different ways to be innovative and just keep on bringing in cash. But like you said, we just started some part-time jobs. We actually relocated from Louisiana to Dallas like 2 months ago.
Oh,
So,
Lord, you're another Dallas. Why is all the world moving to Dallas?
Because Dallas is a pretty lit city.
It's lit, yeah.
Oh, Lord, you have to hang around Erica. Yeah.
Yeah, Erica's my girl. Like,
yeah, she's mine too. Yeah. But yeah, she's recruiting hard for Texas. Carry on.
Yeah, but like just things like that, just knowing, hey, this is what it's going to take, and it's going to take some sacrifice. And I've heard, some people, oh, that's not the lifestyle I want to live, having to do all of these things. But I was like, I don't care. Like, I don't need that much stuff to be happy. As long as I can go fishing, go kayaking, got some gas in my truck, like, I'm cool. Like, I don't need to go out. I don't need to do all of that. I do love like shoes and fashion, but I get that later. Like, it'll be time for me to get it.
Delayed gratification.
Mm-hmm.
Gee, you said something. I want to talk about it just a little bit more because you said I see it a lot on the internet too, with people talking about like they just quit their job and started a business. I need people to understand that a lot of times whenever people talking to you about a business that they made money on the internet, they are talking to you in numbers of revenue. They are not talking to you in net. I need people to understand the difference between revenue and net.
I need you to break that down, David.
Yeah, gross and net, because people will sit here and tell you they made $10,000, $12,000, $30,000 on the internet, but they're not telling you what they spent. Yeah. Because as a business, you got expenses that you don't have as a person, as a consumer. See, a lot of people always get mad when they find out people like not paying a lot of taxes as a business and this, that, and the other, but they're not thinking about all these other expenses that businesses have. Businesses pay taxes. Like, I didn't know these things until like we got this shit. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't know these things until we got into
Strike one. No, carry on.
like with the Louisiana Department of Revenue, like that's where our LLC and stuff are. Like, I didn't know you had to pay monthly taxes on your business's revenue on top of the taxes you're gonna pay at the end of the year, on top of any other operational expenses that you're gonna have.
See, don't bring in any employees. Now you got to pay payroll tax. You got to pay the payroll system. You got to start worrying about workman's comp. Like, all of those things come into owning a business. And like, even like you said, the things to keep your business running, there's a lot of operation software that it's vital. It's crucial to having your business run. Like, you have to pay for email softwares. You have to pay for payment gate softwares. You have to pay for softwares to run your websites and everything like that. You have to pay for all of that. So you got to make sure that's why I said we want to make sure our baby is healthy enough to take care of itself. You got to make sure that your business at least is making enough to cover all of those expenses. And I'm gonna be honest, like my rule of thumb, I feel like if you're making 5 times that, then you should go ahead and say, okay, I can live off of this now. Because now you can start taking care and you still can take care of your business 5 times over before your cut coming out. So if you don't have a certain profit margin that you're looking for, and also that brings me to your number. You need to know what's your number you need to have and make per month in order for you to live the lifestyle that you want to live. So if your notes and truck and mortgage and everything like that comes to $3,000 and your business is grossing $5,000 a month, don't quit your job.
No, you going bankrupt your business.
Yeah.
Yes. Quick, fast, and in a hurry. And then those are the burned ones, but those end up being the burned ones that then tell everyone, don't start a business, don't do it. Because they never took the time to plan it or anything like that. Yeah.
And I kind of want to talk to just like the mindset of being an entrepreneur. A lot of the times, sometimes people will try to push business on people, but I believe that everyone is really not meant for entrepreneurship, because this game, it's different. Like, whenever you're at work, you can clock out and walk away. But whenever you're a business owner, you have to think about this 24/7. Like, there's
work, you can be able to still get a check.
Yeah, like there's problems that's going to arise. You have to fix it, or like he said, you can BS at work and still get a check.
Yep.
But the minute you start slacking off in your business, the minute you're going to see that result, you're going to see what you're doing. That's another thing. Like if you're not able to be accountable, don't be a business owner full time, because your accountability is going to show front face and center. Like however hard you go, however much work you put in, that's how much you're going to get out of your business. If you're lazy, lackadaisical, just putting in 2 hours a day for your business, that's what it's going to reflect. If you're giving that full 8 hours like you'd be giving to someone else, I'm pretty sure your success and the amount of success of your business is going to show, hey, you've been working full time at this.
Oh, that's a good point. Oh, that's a good point. Because in many ways, people don't recognize that. And this is going to sound bad, but you guys just said it, that there are certain luxuries and privileges with both paths, right? So with having W-2 employee, which I am, by the way, W-2 employee and entrepreneur, with that, you do have the benefit, like you said, that every 2 weeks a check is going to come up. Every 2 weeks, right? And like you said, sorry for anyone who's offended, but yes, there is, you can be paid to be mediocre.
Thanks.
Because, and you know why I said that? Throwing shade to all, they know who they are. But in the sense that, have you ever had coworkers, right, who you are killing it, you going the extra mile, and you have a coworker who is chilling, nothing.
The same
thing.
And they might get praised before you.
Yes. And when you do well at work, they just pile on more work because you're such an efficient worker.
Exactly.
That, you know?
Hello.
Okay. However, I do co-sign with you when you say that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. I do agree with that. As we both agree, though, investing is for everyone.
That's exactly what I was about to get to.
Investing is for everyone.
Yes.
Everyone should be investing. If you
not even should, fam. Especially for our community. Now, should is a luxury for other communities. For our community, it is a need.
Yes.
So I'm saying.
And even if you want to be a business owner, if you know you don't have the wherewithal of being a business owner, if you got the cash and the finance, you can be a silent investor into a business and own 10% and still start getting royalties off of that. You don't have to be the person putting in the work. Like there's ways to work and really just figure out different ways to start generating and getting into business. You don't have to be the person doing the work.
I'm trying to learn that piece right there. I'm going to talk to y'all offline about that piece.
Ongoing struggle, Gia. Trust me, I feel you in my heart of hearts.
All right, we pull up this last question here. Someone asks, any advice for young people thinking on doing a business? Any advice for young people thinking about starting a business? I think is the question.
Starting, I would just say go ahead and start it, and don't be fearful of whatever's going to happen. Be imaginative. Draw outside the line sometimes. Like a lot of times people will be like, you have to do this certain ways, but sometimes you don't have to do that. Be disruptive. Go into the industry. Like be as creative as you want to. Once again, I compare it to being a child. Like have that same mentality of you being a child, being creative, because you might bring something to that industry that the people who playing it by the rules didn't see. So be as creative as you can, and just don't be afraid to fail, but also make sure you're writing down what you're doing, whatever is bringing you success, so you can start to replicate that once you start to grow. And then once you start to grow with that replication, you can pass that off to someone else. And now that makes your business scalable and not just one dimensional.
Well, that's good.
Any piece of advice I got for you is don't go and get incorporated. Don't go do all that other stuff until you first figure out exactly what it is you're doing and how you're going to be making money from it. Because if you don't know those two things, you're wasting your time. And just really, if you really, really, really want to start a business, take action. Jalen said it. I'm going to say it again. The biggest difference between the person who succeeded and the person who failed is the person who continually took actions that gave them the results they wanted.
Yeah.
Like, in the last thing, never stop educating yourself. Because I think it's real easy to fall into it. Like once you start getting some success at doing something, you think, oh, I got it all figured out. I got some success at it, but you still a student at your own throughout the entire process. You're always going to be a student. So you need to continue to like build out your skill chart, learn different things, learn how you going to continue to grow and expand your business, because you can't just, if you're in business, if you're not expanding, you're dying.
Yeah.
That's the way it is. Like you need to be always constantly growing, because there's a little thing, I always relate it back to inflation. So there's a little thing called inflation, man. Money getting worth less and less every day. So like you gonna have to be ahead of the curve. You got to keep growing so you can beat that out.
Okay, before we wrap up, I just have to say this one thing. Jalen, thank you so much for, I know it doesn't sound like anything to you, but thank you so much for sharing the fact that you mow lawns, you do whatever you have to do to provide for yourself. Because one of my pet peeves, that's a whole nother live, but one of my pet peeves is when people put contingencies on their goals, right? They're saying, well, I want to do this, but not if I have to do that, right? I had someone, I want to start a business, that's fantastic. But I'm like, okay, so in the meantime, why don't you drive Uber for a little bit? Why don't you do a little DoorDash little DoorDash on the side? There's nothing wrong. Get the money you need to while you're building X. But however, people's ego gets in the way. Their ego gets into the way. And so unfortunately, they're not willing to propel themselves and do what they want to do, because yes, the other thing too, there's ego and pride. And then on top of that, it also goes back to this fear that you said, almost like people are afraid of others seeing them try something new. Afraid of, I'm just like, no, life is too short. Life is way too short. Nothing is promised. So
I don't know why anybody would let that like stop them. Like if you, like you said, I guess it's pride, ego, and I guess a little bit of them worrying about shame earlier. But like nobody really cares at the end of the day. I promise you.
At the end of the day,
it's just you.
At the end of the day, the way I look at it too is none of y'all is gonna give me no money. None of y'all gonna pay for me. Because the minute I start Xing y'all gonna call me a bum. So I don't have time for it. Like I'm gonna do what I have to do in order to make it happen for myself. So, like, what you gonna do? I'm just that's just how I see it.
And then when I see you guys on the cover of Forbes, then they're gonna ask you if they can hold something. See what I mean?
Are you a bum? No.
Okay, fellas, last question for the night, which is this. 2 years, happy anniversary. So what month will make it 2 years? Do you remember?
Yesterday. No,
it was yesterday. October 31st.
What's the 31st? I don't know.
It's the 31st, bro.
31st.
Happy anniversary to you and your phenomenal team. Number one.
Thank you so much.
Happy anniversary. Now, 2 years, I have to ask you the final question I ask every person. What have you learned about yourself in these past 2 years? And what do you recognize you had to become in order to grow your business?
That's some good questions right there.
So what did you learn about yourself? The good, the bad, the ugly. And what did you recognize you had to become in order to keep this business going?
So what did I learn about myself? What I learned about myself is that I'm a lot more controlling than I thought I was. Like I think of myself as a very go with the flow person. But I guess it's more so in certain aspects. Like when it came to design and stuff like that, I had been doing this on my phone by myself the whole time. So like I was very heavy-handed on that. Like I'm like, oh, I'm not letting this go. Ooh, like so like that was one thing I had to learn about myself, was like that. At times I get like really obsessive about certain things that I really just want to see done the way my vision is. But every time it doesn't always have to be that way.
Yeah.
I don't have to be that person to figure every little aspect of everything out. That was one lesson that I really had to learn. Another thing that I learned on this journey, I mean, just my capacity to work. I guess I never really thought of it like this, like work a lot of the time. But whenever I was working a job, like I never would think of myself as a person who would go work like 18 hours out the day. But I saw myself doing this with Black Wealth Renaissance, like just I'm not going to bed at night. I got to figure this out, like that type of stuff. But with both of those things, like learning about myself, I guess the biggest thing I had to learn was like the thing I have to learn to become what I want to become is I'm going to have to take a step back from doing the work and being like an action oriented technician type work type person and become more of the managerial type person, become more of the person who can create directives and give directives and like just more so playing the coach role versus being the player.
Yeah.
That's one of the big things I think that I'm learning, still learning as is going on right now. Like these past 6 months have been interesting to say the least.
And with myself, I think one of the biggest things I learned is the exact opposite. Like, I'm a dreamer, I'm a vision. Like, I look and I see a lot of things happening, but I got to come back and figure out, like, how do you make this happen? Like, what is the steps that's got to be taken to make it happen? Like, I can see where I'm going to go, but I have to figure out, okay, how do I write out this roadmap? How do I actually get from point A to point B with this? So that's one of the things that I learned about myself. And also, like, just the work ethic and really just putting out, like, I had to learn, like, if you don't do these certain things, like, you're going to get slapped in the face. Like, if you don't edit this podcast tonight, it's not going to go out tomorrow. So you have to do it. Like, you have to do it. Are you going to either stay up till 3, 4 o'clock at night editing this? Then you have to go back to work, or are you going to do it in your spare time where you don't feel like it? So those are some of the things that I learned, and really just who I had to become, or what I had to become. I really just had to become courageous and really just not being fearful to step out on my own and really just figuring it out, and really just being an example. Like, I had to become an example for everything else, like other people. So I feel like that's why I told, like, hey, I'm cutting grass, because I don't want to leave out the ugly. I want you to know that, hey, this is what this is, and this is what it's going to take. So I feel like I practice full transparency, because I don't want people to think, like you said, I was an overnight success. No, I want you to realize, hey, I was out here doing this. I'm cutting grass. I'm out here building stuff with my dad. I'm laying floors. Like, I'm doing whatever I got to do to make it. But at the same time, like, it's possible. So I feel like I had to become an example.
Oh, put that on the t-shirt. That's good. Put that on a t-shirt. Fellas.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was such a pleasure. Thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight.
Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you for inviting us. Thank you for getting on that live. Thinking to yourself and, like, hey, I need y'all on here.
But you know what, though? That actually coincides perfectly with my platform and your platform. And let me catch hello, beautiful people on the gram. Hi, you guys have been fantastic. Let me catch you up to speed, because you may not know what these gentlemen are referring to, and everyone here, which is this. I make it a habit to practice fear. So with that, a part of my fear was pitching. So I started making a habit to pitch. So I pitch to anyone. I will pitch to my neighbor. I will pitch to the dog. I pitch to everybody. So when these lovely gentlemen were live, because I had the habit of pitching, I just hit live. They said, y'all said, what was it?
Yeah, we do 60-second pitch competition.
60-second pitch competition.
Yeah, on Monday nights, we do 60-second pitch competition.
Yeah, y'all tap in tomorrow.
So I pitched and they said yes. So here's the point of it. As we close this out, it's really simple. I live by the mantra. It's very deep. So I need you to pay attention, Jalen. I'm about to drop something very deep right now. Look enthralled. Look enthralled. Okay, you ready? You ready? I live this mantra of shoot your shot. Shoot your shot. It's very simple. I work in healthcare. And so with that, you see things and I experience things. And let's just say that working at my job has helped me over the years to truly, truly value our time on this precious planet. Mm-hmm. When you realize how finite life is, you recognize how precious it is, and you go all out. Mm-hmm. So I make it a habit. And I encourage all wonderful 36 of you here and those who are watching the replay. Our time on here is finite. Shoot your shot. Life is too short, and I'm not going to live with regrets. I'd rather have scuffs and scars on my corpse. And they're like, ooh, she did a lot. Yeah, I was doing it. Shoot your shot, family. So for everyone that's living out here today, make sure that no matter what you do in your life, you shoot your shot. All right?
I'm giving it to you again. I
What?
love it.
Oh, thank you. That's it. Wonderful things can happen if you're just willing to put yourself out there. That's it. And what's the worst thing? They could have said no. It's okay. But they're gentlemen. They said yes. So thank you again for coming on.
We appreciate you. Like I said, this has been great. This has been a lovely interview. I understand why people will get too comfortable. Y'all, sorry, I disrespected the platform. But I'm gonna do better.
It's all love, CP. It's all love. It's all love.
Give him some orbit.
You're a mess. So for everyone on Instagram, if you want to see the replay of this, it will be available tomorrow afternoon on my YouTube channel. So make sure to hit the link in my bio and subscribe. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Until next time, bye guys.
Deuces.
Bye. Stay on the line, please, fellas. On a 1, 2, and 3.